I was put into foster care when I was 3 years old and my brother was 4. We were removed from our home by social services due to neglect and placed with a foster family. We both grew up, my brother and I, with a lot of criticism, a lot of anger in the household, and not a lot of love. My brother, in fact, said he never heard my parents say, "I love you" to him. When we left in high school, I was very fortunate. I got a scholarship to college, and then I was hired by Pan American World Airways, which was very exciting. It was an international airline, and I had grown up looking at National Geographic, and it was going to take me to all of those places that I had wanted to go. When I was around 33, I started dating a man who was a shipping magnate, a multimillionaire. And we went to a party at the United Nations Plaza Apartments, a penthouse apartment. At the party was a group of very wealthy young models, actresses, trust fund babies, and other industrialists who'd made a lot of money by their early 30s. And as I sat at that party as the only poor person, who had never thought of myself as poor, by the way, I've never aspired to have a lot of money. And I looked around and I thought, when one achieves this, when one is at this age, at this young age, late 20s, early 30s, and has everything that the world tells us we want, I thought, there's got to be something bigger. There has to be a higher purpose to life than this. And I want to know what it is. And the exact thought that went through my mind was, I want to know what truth is. There's a higher truth, and I want to know what that truth is. And that started me on my quest. I happened to know somebody whose aunt was the chief gardener at the ashram in Pune, India, where the Rajneesh was teaching. And I went to Pune for a month and did Sufi dancing and sat in on lectures and took part in all the craziness that was going on there at that time. And I was sitting on the roof of a building doing my meditation, listening to this lovely Indian music with the breeze wafting through my hair, and very comfortable and peaceful. And I heard this voice next to me say, "This is not truth." And although I should have been surprised because there was nobody sitting next to me that this voice spoke to me, for some reason it was a familiar voice. And my mind said back to that voice, yes, I know this is not truth. This man is going to die. He may have some profound things to say, but he is just like I am, a sinner and imperfect, and will die at the same time everybody else does at the end of his life. So there has to be another truth besides this. During this time, I had gone into management and was returning from management to being a flight attendant. And right at that cusp of that time, I had to testify in federal court against the union that I was going to be a part of. And it brought the wrath of the union, union of flight attendants, against me. And people spoke to me in a way that I had never been spoken to before. A lot of profanity. They refused to work with me. A coworker's car was painted red because they thought it was mine. One evening coming back from Tokyo, a woman sat next to me on the plane. I worked the upper deck of the 747 because nobody would work with me on the lower deck. And she asked me where I got my strength from to deal with all the hatred that was coming towards me on these flights. And I said, well, you just do what you have to do. You draw it from within yourself. And she said to me, I couldn't do it. She said, if I weren't a born-again Christian and if I didn't have my faith and know Jesus was with me, I couldn't do it. And I said, well, what is a born-again Christian? I had already discounted Christianity from my upbringing, and I was curious what her response was going to be. She talked about how a loving parent behaves towards a child when they're Christians, and she talked about what a marriage should be like, it is like, once you become a Christian. And it was so different from anything I had experienced or seen. It made me yearn to learn more and to know where she was coming from. I started attending the church and attending Bible studies. I drove 2 hours every Sunday and every Wednesday. I became a born-again Christian there and was baptized into the faith, and I have never looked back. Doesn't mean life is always easy, but I know that no matter how hard things get, God promises that He is always with me. I know that to be true, and I know that there is no other option in this life. I believe the beauty of Jesus is the fact that He will never leave you or forsake you. He will always love you. If you think of Him as the best friend that you can imagine, who will never betray you, who will never turn their back on you, who is always on your side, who is your best supporter and is always rooting for you, and who has great compassion when you fall. That to me is the beauty of Jesus.